are your hosts of Financially Tuned, Mark Fricks and Tony Shore.
Welcome to another show of Financially Tuned with me, Mark Fricks, from Master Plan Retirement Consultants, and our co-host today, Tony Shore. We are excited that you're with us today because in this show, we're going to be talking about the importance of why we think it's so important for you to plan and prepare your legacy. And if you're like most people, planning and preparing your legacy isn't necessarily at the top of your list of things to do, but I tell you what, it's something that's vital and critical, and we want to make sure that it becomes something important to you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is critical. Someone the other day put it so succinctly, and I can't remember who said this, but they said, what if you knew that you were going to be unemployed for 30 years?
Wow.
Would you plan for it? If somebody came and told you today that, 5 years from now, you're going to quit your job and be unemployed for 30 years with no job, would you start saving? Would you come up with a plan to try to deal with that? Wow. I think you would. But that's what retirement is, and I don't think people look at it like that, Mark. But we can talk more about that. But what do you think of that?
That's I love that. I may use that. That's I've not put that way before. Yeah,
I wish I could remember where I heard that, but I heard somebody say that, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to steal that one because that is really a great analogy, and it's not really an analogy; it's just the fact. Yeah. A lot of people are going to live 20 to 30 years in retirement now.
That's right, or at least one remaining part of a couple.
Yes,
will last that long.
Yeah, if you're married, one of the two of you will probably end up having a long retirement. Usually, that's the way statistically it works. And but anyway, before we get into all that, Mark, I wanted to ask you. I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks. How have you been?
Been great, Tony. We had a conference we attended out in San Diego. Again, as we've talked about on this show before, we take very seriously staying ahead of the curve on planning techniques, on current laws, whether it be tax laws or estate planning, retirement plan law, things of that nature. So we're constantly attending either via the web or in person, different conferences. And so we were out in San Diego for 3 or 4 days, getting smarter. And again, making sure that we're doing the best job we can for our clients. So great trip out to San Diego. It was interesting. Got a chance to go to a baseball game, and because I was there, it rained, and it was the first rain delay they've had in 4 years. So that was...
Of course.
I did my part.
Yeah, that wasn't very fortunate for you.
But it was fun. We had a great time. So hope you've been well.
Good. Yeah, I've been great. Busy as ever, busy as a beaver, just working. But it's fun, and spring is finally here, so I'm glad about that. Now, you mentioned earlier that a lot of folks, it's not at the top of their list, and I mentioned the 20 to 30 years of unemployment. And I agree with you, Mark. Planning your legacy is not at the top of most people's lists. And planning income needs for retirement, managing assets, and just living life without having to worry about that and how it's going to be handled when we're gone, it makes legacy planning less than attractive for a Saturday afternoon task, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you, Tony. Today, there's really more consideration given to planning on legacy as well than just maximizing your wealth. Really, when most people think about having assets to leave behind for family or loved ones, it may seem like something that only the wealthy will do. Somebody like the Vanderbilts, or in today's world, the Kardashians or the Buffetts or somebody like that. But sure. Legacy is really something else also entirely. It's more than just a total of your financial assets you've accumulated. It's also kind of what you leave behind from a standpoint of your lasting impression. What kind of life you led. What you pass on as far as beliefs and loves and what's important to you and things like that. So it's really a couple of different parts to leaving a legacy.
Well, I think that's great. So I take it it's really important, and there's a lot of reasons why it's important to plan your legacy, correct?
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, if you don't plan your legacy, somebody else has a plan for you. I'll tell folks that meet here in our office that, they'll come in and they'll be in their, 50s or 60s or maybe even older, and I'll ask them, do you have a will? And you'd be surprised how often people say no. Or maybe they've got one that was written 25 years ago, when their kids were young and they lived somewhere else and things like that. And, you go into that kind of a situation. If something were to happen and you passed away, without a will, you have a will. You have one down at the county courthouse, and they're going to assign people that, to handle that. And, they're going to assign an executor. They're going to assign a clerk of the court to represent your interests that you've left behind. So, we start thinking about who do you think, would be important to choose to handle this kind of stuff as you start thinking about this. So it really starts, I think, with organization and really finding out what you have and what you want to leave, and then begin exploring strategies, keeping in mind, the beneficiaries, what would be important for them to receive, again, whether it's financial or whether it's more about the ideas that you leave behind. So we just want to kind of start with taking time to ensure that we've organized everything, and that's kind of the beginning of the process. And that in itself, Tony, is kind of a gift to leave too, by the way. I don't know if you've been involved in the passing of someone that was close to you and you were in charge of making sure their stuff got to where they wanted it to be. But I think the first gift is having that organized, to walk into a situation to where everything's everywhere and the documents are not correct, or you have no documents and there are accounts everywhere and safety deposit boxes nobody's aware of. That in itself is not a good gift to leave if you pass away.
Well, I think that's great. These are all great reasons as to why we all should have and plan our legacy. But even though people might know the importance of having a well-planned legacy, do you still find that people come to you without a plan when they really should have one?
Oh, absolutely. And as I stated earlier, just talking about the will, it's one thing even to have a will. Maybe you have a will and maybe you have a power of attorney or something, but even that is not really an estate plan. That's just some documents, and there's nothing to really tie all that together. And what we find is people really don't get serious about putting this together until there's an event. Now, it could be the passing of someone close to them, and suddenly they realize, this, life is short, and I need to take care of this. Other times, it's like a client that came in last week. They were getting ready to travel overseas, and they got to thinking about that and said, we're going to be going, some places that it's not quite as safe as it is here. Of course, travel itself can be sometimes a little dangerous. So they got to thinking, we need to get some of our affairs in order and make sure that it's, that it's ready if something were to happen to us. And so there can be things that will happen that kind of trigger the need to do that. Sometimes it's a matter of meeting with us. They come in and we're meeting about their retirement accounts or managing some money for them or maximizing their Social Security. And of course, because we are holistic in our approach and we ask all the right questions, we find out they don't have these documents or have an estate plan to tie it together. And it's meeting with us is kind of a trigger. Hey, we're going to get this done. We're going to help you get it done, and let's make sure it gets done right.
Well, I think that's great. Unfortunately, Mark, our time is up for this first segment of the show. We have to take a quick commercial break, but do you have anything else you'd like to add before we do?
Well, this can seem kind of overwhelming, so I'd say a great place to start would be to just contact us and set up a time for us to sit down and chat, or we can send you some publications, some white papers that we've put together that can talk more about planning for a legacy. So to contact us, you can give us a call at 770-980-9262. We also have a toll-free number, 855-801-9313. Or visit the website. That has all of our information on it. You can contact us through the website, and that's found at masterplanyourretirement.com.
And we're going to be right back with more from Mark Fricks on Financially Tuned after this.
To hear the rest of the show or for more information, go to masterplanyourretirement.com or call Mark at 770-980-9262 to schedule an appointment.